Film. Film is a recent genre emerging at the end of the 19th century in brief silent films and then moving into feature-length silent films in the 20th century and eventually into the talkies. In the 20th century, film has become the dominant artistic medium. Film differs from the genres we've discussed so far in that films are rarely products of one person's vision. Rather, films involve writers, actors, directors, editors, sound people, etc. Moreover, film represents a different medium from written text and therefore requires different readerly skills. Where readers of written text must make sense of letters on the page, film viewers must read images in motion combined with sound. While such understanding seems like it would be obvious because film so closely figures lived experience, understanding film is actually cultural. Viewers must take a two-dimensional, moving image and imagine it's three-dimensional. They must understand that cuts from one speaker to another represent a conversation, and that cuts from one event to another represent actions occurring simultaneously or in chronological sequence or in flashback. Thus, even film requires interpretation that we take for granted. Because film seems to mirror real life so closely, it's very difficult to notice the techniques used to create that realistic illusion. One way to start thinking about film as a genre is to recognize the following facts about film texts. Scenes are rarely filmed in order, so the emotion actors seem to build throughout a film must be created from scratch on a daily basis. Scenes are usually constructed of many different shots from various camera angles and focal lengths. Conversations, for example, include close-ups of both actors speaking, as well as over-the-shoulder shots, medium shots, and sometimes long shots, which include the setting in which the conversation is occurring. Thus, the scene is actually a collage of different shots. Only the voices of the main characters in a scene are recorded, usually with a mic on a boom over the actors' heads. However, even their words are frequently dubbed later. Other sounds occurring in a scene are put in later by Foley experts, who often use common household items to create the sounds of footsteps or Darth Vader's breathing. It's important to understand how films are made in order to see how the genre techniques combine to affect the viewer. Although we often watch films for passive enjoyment, films can be analyzed like literature by examining the filmic techniques used and their impact on the story and on the viewer. Here are a few aspects to consider as you're viewing film. Mise-en-scène is the action and details that the director stages for the camera, including setting, lighting, costume, makeup, and character actions, and this differs from the edited version of the film. Framing is how the camera frames the scene. Close-up shots, medium shots, which are usually waist up, wide or long shots, which includes the subject in the setting. Composition is how the elements in the frame attract attention. So you might think about movement, color, balance, that is how figures in the frame balance against one another, such as a figure in the front or the center or several figures in the bottom. And size, because larger items capture more attention. And it's interesting, in the Matrix image, the hand is as big as the face, which calls a lot of attention to the hand. Depth of field is also important. Shallow focus is when only one plane of the image is in focus, and deep focus is where every plane is in focus. And so this image from Marie Antoinette is deep focus. Racking focus is where the focus changes from one plane to another, and I'll try to show you a scene that does that in a moment. And zoom is where you zoom closely into from one kind of focus into another focus. Camera angles are also important. Low angle shots are from below and high angles are from above, and so this matrix still is from above. Straight on angle is eye level, and canted is when the frame is tilted. Camera movements are also important. So pan is when the camera moves from left to right on a horizontal rotation. Tilt is where the camera moves up or down. Tracking is where the camera itself moves, and so this Chariots of Fire still, where there's men running, is a tracking shot because probably the camera is in a truck or a jeep. With a crane, a camera can be lifted off the ground, and then, of course, we're all familiar with handheld cameras, which are really jiggly, and they call attention to the camera's presence. Duration has to do with how long a take is or how short a take is, and let me see if I can show you a long take. I'm just going to go out here onto the web. Here's a long take. Let's see if this works.
Thank you, sir. All right, see you later. Thanks.
What are you doing? You're leaving your car?
Watch, it's a car for me. It's easier than leaving it at a garage and waiting. It's a lot quicker that way. You know what I mean? Huh? I like going this way. Better than waiting in line. What are you doing? Good, good. What's up?
So you can kind of see a long take is where the camera just keeps continuous focus on a particular interaction, and so in this case, in Goodfellas, the camera follows the characters. A short take is where it moves faster. We can also talk about lighting. So high-key lighting is very bright, low-key lighting is dim. We can also talk about the direction of the lighting, and here we've got a backlit still from Catch Me If You Can. The source of the lighting may also be important. The key lighting is the main lighting, and fill lighting softens the lighting. And color can also be an issue with lighting. Film techniques involving sound may make sound part of the scene. That is, you could have an internal voiceover where the character's thinking, and that's diegetic. Non-diegetic is when the sound is not part of the scene, and that might be a soundtrack or a voiceover from somebody that's not in the scene. The direction of the sound might be important. That is it coming from behind you or in front of you? And synchronous and asynchronous has to do whether the sound is actually synced. And let me see if I can show another clip. This is from Apocalypse Now. And so that was diegetic sound. Both the sort of soundtrack sounds and the helicopter sounds are part of the scene. We can also talk about different kinds of transitions, and I just demonstrated some of those. A dissolve, or a wipe, right? Or a fade in or fade out, or an iris out from the old Batman shows. Those are all different kinds of transition techniques. I thought I would also show this sequence from Rushmore, which shows a racking shot. Let me see if I can do that. There's the racking. Okay. And then other techniques are continuity techniques, which are about the smooth flow from one shot to the next. So you might make an establishing shot to establish the angle from which a whole scene is viewed. A re-establishing shot reestablishes that angle. Shot reverse is where you show filming from one side of the scene and then reversing to film from the other. An eyeline match is someone looking at an object and then showing the object itself. And the scene from Rear Window, the woman is showing a wedding ring. Match cut or match on action is filming from one side of a scene with movement beginning and then filming from the other side as the movement is completed. And then off-screen, on-screen action is where the character moves in and out of the frame. And a sound bridge is the use of sound to segue. Point of view, again, also important. It could be the character's or the director's point of view. Slow motion and filters are also cool strategies. The kinds of things that are used in theatrical techniques are also good, and as well as the techniques used in narrative. And so that gives you a little bit of background on film.